Now we're going to go on to the business news for you here on France 24, starting here in the EU, in fact, with the proposed overhaul of the bloc's customs union. And Brian Quint from our business desk is joining me here on set. Brian, just the latest on this then.
So, Stuart, the European Commission has unveiled what it calls the most ambitious and comprehensive reform of the bloc's customs union since its 1968 establishment. Brussels citing growing pressures on its current system, including a massive increase in e-commerce. Now, the overhaul would see a new EU customs data hub and customs authority put in place, hopefully allowing businesses and states to save billions. Yinka Oyetade explains.
Online shopping is booming, and to cope, EU authorities want to simplify and tighten control on incoming goods. They've proposed what they describe as the most ambitious reform since the creation of the customs union in 1968. At present, e-commerce companies have to deal with 27 national customs authorities, as well as more than 111 data systems. This will all be streamlined under the reform put forward by the European Commission. There will be a common customs data hub for importers to make their declarations, overseen by a new EU customs authority.
It will continually analyze the data and recommend which goods pose a risk and should be stopped by member states at the border.
The bloc estimates that the overhaul, which would include a so-called trust and check traders, will cut down on paperwork and save businesses €2.7 billion a year in compliance costs. Member states could also cash in. With the EU hub, countries could save up to €2 billion in IT development and maintenance fees. The reform will benefit European shoppers as well, with customs duties and VAT set to be included in the purchase price of goods.
Today's reform will make online platforms such as Alibaba, Amazon, Zalando, others, comply with all customs obligations. Consumers will no longer be hit with hidden charges or unexpected paperwork when the parcel arrives.
The plans would also scrap an exemption on customs duties on goods valued under €150. The Commission estimates that about two-thirds of parcels entering the EU are deliberately undervalued to avoid paying duties. If given the green light by the European Parliament and governments, the new rules would gradually come into effect from 2028.
Well, the UK and the EU, meanwhile, have reached an agreement to allow their financial regulators to cooperate more closely. Brexit had largely ended the British financial service sector's formerly free access to the European single market. Negotiators had agreed to eventually formalize cooperation to limit damage to their deeply intertwined financial systems. But a previous agreement was paused amid a dispute over Brexit's Northern Ireland Protocol, with the recent Windsor Accords lifting that hurdle. The latest MOU stops short of giving full EU market access to British financial services. Representatives of London's financial industry, though, say it's a big step towards recovery after Brexit disruption.
My aspiration is for financial services and indeed all trade across the EU and the United Kingdom to really start moving again. You know, there's been a lot of pause, there's been a lot of damage, I think, to both the economies of our European friends and our own economy. So there's a balance to be struck with regulation, and it's about getting that right balance.
Let's get a check now on the day's trading action. Asian index is gaining as investors take heart from some apparent progress in U.S. debt ceiling negotiations. The Nikkei in Tokyo up 1.6% as global microchip makers signal plans to step up investments in Japan. Here in Europe, those positive signals from the White House and U.S. Republicans on the debt ceiling also helping to lift shares at the open. London up around 0.4%. The CAC 40 here in Paris up around 0.6%, with the DAX in Frankfurt up 0.75% at the open. Finally, for business, what could be the largest settlement in U.S. history by a bank over sex trafficking allegations. Deutsche Bank has agreed to pay $75 million to end a lawsuit that accused it of knowingly enabling and benefiting from the abuse of young women by Jeffrey Epstein. The financier and sexual predator was a prominent Deutsche client from 2013 to 2018. He died in 2019 of an apparent suicide in a Manhattan jail cell. Deutsche's settlement will see victims receive between $75,000 and $5 million, depending on their claims. Meanwhile, JP Morgan Chase is currently facing its own lawsuit brought by multiple Epstein victims over similar allegations. Some clients, Stuart, not worth the fee.
No, you can say that, Brian. Thanks very much. Brian Quinn with the business news.